Welcome to Billerica Public Library's Book Buzz January 2022 publications. Listen and find out about some great books that were purchased by Billerica Public Library and the Merrimack Consortium. We hope that you will snuggle up with one of these amazing books. Enjoy. Our first genre is contemporary fiction. Invisible by Danielle Stale. Antonia is the product of a loveless marriage. As a child, she is abandoned in the abyss that yawns between them, blamed by her mother, ignored by her father, and neglected by both. Unprotected and unloved, she learns that the only way to feel safe is to hide from the dangers around her, drawing as little attention as possible to herself, to be invisible. In her isolation, books are her refuge and movies her escape. A day spent being carried away by an unforgettable film in a dark theater is her greatest thrill. Her love of the movies turns into a dream to become a screenwriter and a summer job at the Hollywood studio. There, a famous British filmmaker notices her, and suddenly she can remain invisible no longer. He wants to put her in a movie and make her a star. It is a dazzling opportunity, but a terrifying one. As it strips her of her camouflage and made her feel safe, she is suddenly thrust into the public eye, and even more so when they fall in love. When tragedy strikes, she must decide whether she will remain on center stage or become invisible again. Where she feels the safest. Will she face her demons or run and hide? The Family You Make by Jill Shalvis. During the snowstorm of the century, Levi is stranded on a ski lift with a beautiful stranger named Jane. After strong winds hurl the gondola in front of them into the ground, Levi calls his parents to prepare them for the worst. But he can't bring himself to say goodbye. Instead, wanting to fulfill his mother's lifelong wish, he impulsively tells her he's happily settled and Jane is his girlfriend right before his phone dies. But Levi and Jane do not. Now, Levi's family is desperate to meet the one. Though Jane agrees to be his pretend girlfriend for just one dinner, she's nervous. After a traumatic childhood, Jane isn't sure she knows how to be around a tight knit family that cherishes one another. She's terrified and a little jealous. But an unexpected series of events and a host of new friends soon show Jane that perhaps this is the life she's always meant to have. The Final Case by David Gutterson. A girl dies one late rainy night a few feet from the back door of her home. The girl, Abiba, was born in Ethiopia. Her adopted parents, Delvin and Betsy Harvey, conservative white fundamentalist Christians, are charged with her murder. Betsy is put on trial for that murder. Royal, a Seattle criminal attorney in the last days of his long career, decides to take Betsy's case. His son is on break from fiction writing. The unnamed narrator accompanies his elderly father, Royal, to the pretrial interview of Betsy. So that's the final case of Royal. The Good Son by Jacqueline Mitchell. What do you do when the person you love becomes unrecognizable to you? For Thea, the answer is both simple and agonizing. You keep loving him somehow. Stefan was just 17 when he went to prison for the drug fueled murder of his girlfriend, Belinda. 3 years later, he's released to a world that refuses to let him move on. Belinda's mother, once Thea's good friend, galvanizes the community to rally against him to protest her in her daughter's memory. The media paints Stefan as a symbol of white privilege and indifferent justice. Neighbors, employees, even some members of Thea's own family turn away. Meanwhile, Thea struggles to understand her son. At times, he is still the sweet boy he's always been at. Others, he's a young man tormented by guilt and almost broken by his time in prison. But as his efforts to make amends meets escalating resistance and threats, Thea suspects more forces are at play than just community outrage. And if there is so much she's never knew about her own son, what other secrets has she yet to uncover, especially about the night Belinda died? Our second genre is cultural fiction. No Land to Light On by Yara Zigby. Haiti and Sama are a young Syrian couple flying high on a whirlwind love, dreaming up a life in the country that brought them together. She had come to Boston years before, chasing dreams of a bigger life. He's landed there as a sponsored refugee from the bloody Civil War. Now they are giddily waiting the birth of their son, a boy whose native language would be freedom and belonging. When Samar is 5 months pregnant, Haiti's father dies suddenly in Jordan, the night before his visa appointment at the embassy. Haiti flies back for the funeral, promising his wife he'll only be gone for a few days. On the day his flight is due to arrive in Boston, Sammy is waiting for him at the airport, eager to bring him back home. But as the minutes and then hours pass, she continues to wait, unaware that Haiti has been stopped at the border, detained for questioning, and trapped in a timeless, nightmarish limbo. Worlds apart, suspended between hope and disillusion, as hours become days, become weeks, Sama and Haiti learn for a way back to each other and to the life they dreamed up together. But does that life exist anymore, or was it only an illusion? Olga Dies Dreaming by Exuxo Gonzalez. It's 2017, and Olga and her brother Pedro are bold-faced names in their hometown of New York. Pedro is a popular congressman representing their Latin neighborhood in Brooklyn, while Olga is a Tony wedding planner for Manhattan's power brokers. Despite their alluring public lives, behind closed doors, things are far less rosy. Sure, Olga can orchestrate the love story of 1%, but she can't seem to find her own until she meets Matteo, who forces her to confront the effects of a long held family secrets. Olga and Pedro's mother, Bianca, a young lord turned radical, abandoned her children to advance a militant political cause, leaving them to be raised by their grandmother. Now, with the hint of a hurricane season, Bianca has come barreling back into their lives. Perpetual West by Misha Marin. When Alex and Elena moved from small town Virginia to El Paso, they are just a young married couple, intent on a new beginning. Mexican by birth, but adopted by white American parents, Alex is hungry to learn about the place where he was born. He spends every free moment across the border in Juarez, perfecting his Spanish, hanging with a collective of young activists, and studying lucha libre, Mexican wrestling, for his graduate work in sociology. Meanwhile, Elena, busy fighting her own demons, feels disillusioned by academia and has stopped going to class. And though they are best friends, Elena has no idea that Alex has fallen in love with Mario, a lucha libre fighter. When Alex goes missing and Alana can't determine whether he left on his own accord or was kidnapped, it's clear that neither of them has been honest about who they are. Violetta by Isabel Allenden. Violetta comes into the world on a stormy day in 1920, the first girl in a family with 5 sons. From the start, her life is marked by an extraordinary events, for the ripples of the Great War are still being felt, even as the Spanish flu arrives on the shores of her South American homeland, almost at the moment of her birth. Through her father's persistence, the family will come through this crisis unscathed, only to face a new one as the Great Depression transforms the genteel city life she has known. Her family loses everything and is forced to retreat to a wild but beautiful, remote part of the country. There she will come of age, and her first tutor will come calling. She tells her story in the form of a letter to someone she loves above all others, recounting times of devastating heartbreak and passionate affairs, poverty and wealth, terrible loss and immense joy. Her life is shaped by some of the most important events of history: the fight for women's rights, the rise and fall of tyrants, and ultimately not one, but two pandemics. Our third genre is historical fiction. All of You, Every Single One by Beatrice Hitchman. Julia, a woman unhappily married to a famous Swedish playwright, leaves her husband to begin a passionate affair with a female tailor named Eve. The pair run away together and settle in the more liberal haven of Vienna, where they fall in love, navigate the challenges of their newfound independence, and find community in the city's Jewish quarter. But Julia's yearning for a child throws their fragile happiness into chaos and threatens to destroy her life and the lives of those closest to her. Ada, wealthy industrial's family, have sent her to Dr. Freud in hope that he can cure her mutism, and to do so without a scandal. But help will soon come for Ada from an unexpected place, changing many lives. Beautiful Little Fools by Gillian Cantor. On a sultry August day in 1922, Jay Gatsby is shot to death in his West Egg swimming pool. To the police, it appears to be an open and shut case of murder and suicide when the body of George Wilson, a local mechanic, is found in the woods nearby. Then, a diamond hairpin is discovered in the bushes by the pool, and three women fall under suspicion. Each holds a key that can unlock the truth to the mysterious life and death of this millionaire. Daisy Buchanan once thought she might marry Gatsby before her family was torn apart by an unspeakable tragedy that sent her into the arms of the philandering Tom Buchanan. Jordan Baker, Daisy's best friend, guards a secret that derailed her promising golf career and threatens to ruin her friendship with Daisy as well. Catherine McCoy, who fights for women's freedom and independence, especially for her sister Myrtle Wilson, who's trapped in a terrible marriage. Her Hidden Genius by Marie Benedict. Rosalind Franklin has always been an outsider, brilliant but different. Whether working at the laboratory she adored in Paris or toiling at university in London, she feels closest to science, those unchanging laws of physics and chemistry that guide her experiments. When she is assigned to work on DNA, she believes she can unearth its secret. Rosalind knows she just takes one more x ray picture, one more after thousands, she can unlock the building blocks of life. Never again will she have to listen to her colleagues complain about her, especially Morris Wilkins, who'd rather conspire about genetics with James Watson and Francis Crick than work alongside her. Then it finally happens. The double helix structure of DNA reveals itself to her with perfect clarity. But what unfolds next, Rosalind could never have predicted. The Magnolia Palace by Fiona Davis. 8 months since losing her mother in the Spanish flu outbreak of 1919, 21-year-old Lillian Carter's life has completely fallen apart. For the past 6 years, under the moniker Angelica, Lillian was the most sought after artist model in New York City, with statues based on her figure gracing landmarks from the Plaza Hotel to the Brooklyn Bridge. But with her mother gone, a grieving Lillian is rudderless and desperate. The work has dried up, and a looming scandal has left her entirely without a safe haven. So when she stumbles upon an employment opportunity at the Frick Mansion, building that ironically bears her own visage, Lillian jumps at the chance. But the longer she works as a private secretary to the imperious and demanding Helen Frick, the daughter of the heiress of industrial and art patron Henry Clay Frick, the more deeply her life gets intertwined with that of the family, pulling her into a tangled web of romantic trysts, stolen jewels, family drama that runs so deep that stakes just may be life or death. Nearly 50 years later, mod English model Veronica Weber has her own chance to make her career, and with it earn the money she needs to support her family back home, within the walls of the former Frick residence, now converted into one of New York City's most impressive museums. But when she, along with a charming interim budding art curator named Joshua, are dismissed from Vogue, shoot taking place at the Frick Collection, she chances upon a series of hidden messages in the museum. Messages that will lead her and Joshua on a hunt that could not only solve Veronica's financial woes, but could finally reveal the truth behind a decades old murder in the infamous Frick family. Our fourth genre is romance. Lightning in a Mirror by Jane Ann Krentz. Olivia LeClaire's experiment with speed dating is not going well. First, there was the nasty encounter with the date from hell who tried to murder her, and now the mysterious Harlan Rancourt, long believed dead, sits down at her table and tells her she's the only one who can help him locate the legendary Vortex lab. This is not what Olivia had in mind when she signed up for the 4 event success guarantee package offered by the dating agency. She doesn't have much choice though, because her psychic investigation firm works for the mysterious foundation, and Victor Argenbright, the director, is adamant that she assists Holland. There's just one problem. No one knows Holland's real agenda. His father once ran the foundation like a mob organization, and Holland was destined to be his heir. There's a real possibility Holland has returned to claim his inheritance. For now, however, it's the case of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, because others are after the secrets of the long lost lab. Must Love Books by Shana Robinson. Meet Nora Hughes, the overworked, underpaid, last bookish assistant standing, at least for now. When Nora landed an editorial assistant position at Parson Press, it was her first step towards the dream job. Because honestly, is there anything dreamier than making books for a living? But after 5 years of lunch orders, finicky authors, per my last emails, Nora has come to one grand conclusion: dream jobs do not exist. With her life spiraling and Parsons' staff sinking, Nora gets hit with even worse news. Parsons is cutting her already unlivable salary. Unable to afford her rent and without even the novel she once loved as comfort, Nora decides to moonlight for the rival publisher to make ends meet and maybe poach some Parson authors along the way. But when Andrew Santos, a best-selling Parson author no one can afford to lose, is thrown into the mix, Nora has to decide where her loyalties lie: her new dream job, ever optimistic Andrew, or herself and her future. You Can Run by Rebecca Zanetti. Laurel Snow wouldn't call hunting a serial killer a vacation, but with a pile of dead bodies unearthed near Jenison Valley, Washington, hometown, she'll take what she can get. Yet something about this case stirs her in unexpected ways, like the startling connection she feels to Dr. Abigail Kane, the fiercely intelligent witness with the disturbing knack for making Laurel feel like she has something on her. And then there's Laurel's attraction to Huck Rivers, the Fish and Wildlife officer guiding her to the crime scenes and into the wilderness. A former soldier and trained sniper, Huck's thirst for blood is rivaled only by his fierce pursuit of Laurel. He's been burned by love, wounded by the government, and betrayed before. And to say he has trust issues is the ultimate understatement. Plus, he might be closer to this killer than anybody knows. Laurel's mission to find a serial killer among the growing list of suspects also finds danger that's far too close to home. So close, in fact, Laurel feels she will never find her way back to the woman she once was. Our fifth genre is fantasy. Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Tan. Growing up on the moon, Xingyan is accustomed to solitude, unaware she is being hidden from a powerful celestial emperor who exiled her mother for stealing his elixir of immortality. But when Xinglan's magic flares and her existence is discovered, she's forced to flee her home, leaving her mother behind. Alone, untrained, afraid, she makes her way to the celestial kingdom, a land of wonder and secrets. Disguising her identity, she sees an opportunity to learn alongside the crown prince, mastering archery, magic, and even as passion flames between her and the emperor's son. To save her mother, Exene embarks on a perilous quest, confronting legendary creatures, vicious enemies across the earth and skies. When treachery looms and forbidden magic threatens the kingdom, however, she must challenge the ruthless celestial emperor for her dream, striking a dangerous bargain in which she is torn between losing all she loves or plunging the realm into chaos. Servant Mage by Kate Elliott. A lowly fire mage finds herself entangled in an empire spanning conspiracy on her way to discovering her true power. They choose their laws to secure their power. Phelan is a lamplighter, able to provide illumination through magic. A group of rebel monarchists free her from indentured servitude and take her on a journey to rescue trapped compatriots from an underground complex of mines. Along the way, they get caught up in the conspiracy to kill the latest royal child and wipe out the monarchist movement for good. But Feline has more than just her lamplighting skills up her sleeve. The Beholden by Cassandra Rose Clark. Often as a young woman, Celestia and Azara find themselves land rich but destitute, with only a failing rainforest acreage. Celestria's perfect manners and Isaiah's nascent magic to their aristocratic names, with the last of their money running out, they enact a dangerous plan. Using a spell she doesn't fully understand, Ariza summons the Lady of the Submarine and demands a favor. A husband for Celestia, one rich enough to enable the sisters to keep their land. But a favor from the river goddess always comes at a cost. Now, 5 years later, rumors of war and disease are spreading. Celestia's husband has been called away on a secret mission for the Emperor Finn, and the Lady of Serapine is back to collect her due. Isaiah will be forced to leave the academy where she's been studying to become a mage. Celestia will be pulled from her now flourishing farm while newly pregnant with her first child. Together, they must repay their debt to the lady, embarking on a mission that will pull them on a collision course with Celestia's husband and the emperor and a god even more powerful than the Lady of the Serpent. The Starless Crown by James Rowland. A gifted student foretells an Acropolis. Her reward is the sentence of death. Fleeing into the unknown, she is drawn into a team of outcasts. A broken soldier who once again takes up weapons he's forbidden to wield and carves a trail back home. A drunken prince who steps out from his beloved brother's shadow and claims a purpose of his own. An imprisoned thief who escapes the crushing dark and discovers a gleaming artifact, one that will ignite a power struggle across the globe. On the run, hunted by enemies old and new, they must learn to trust each other in order to survive in a world evolved in strange, beautiful, and deadly ways, uncovering ancient secrets that hold the key to their salvation. But with each passing moment, doom draws closer. Our sixth genre is science fiction. Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. Claire is days away from being unemployed, made obsolete, when her beacon repair crew picks up a strange distress signal. With nothing to lose and no desire to return to Earth, Claire and her team decide to investigate. What they find at the other end of the signal is a shock. The Aurora, a famous luxury space liner that vanished on its maiden tour of the solar system more than 20 years ago. A salvage claim like this could set Claire and her crew up for life. But a quick trip through the Aurora reveals something isn't right. Whispers in the dark, flickers of movement, words scrawled in blood. Claire must fight to hold on to her sanity and find out what really happened on the Aurora before she and her crew meet the same ghastly fate. Light Years from Home by Michael Chen. Evie and her sister Cass aren't on speaking terms. 15 years ago, on a family camping trip, their father and brother vanished. Their dad turned up days later, dehydrated and confused, and convinced he had been abducted by aliens. Their brother Jacob remained missing. The woman dealt with it very differently. Cass, suspecting her college dropout twin simply ran off, became the rock of the family. Evie traded academics to pursue alien conspiracy theories, always looking for Jacob. When Evie's UFO network uncovers a new event, she goes to investigate and discovers Jacob is back. He's different, older, stranger, and talking of an intergalactical war. But the tensions between the siblings haven't changed at all. If the family is going to come together to help Jacob, then Cass and Evie are going to have to fix their issues and fast because the FBI is after Jacob, and if their brother is telling the truth, possibly an entire space armada too. Goliath by Tochi Anabuchi. In the 2050s, Earth has begun to empty. Those with the means and the privilege have departed the great cities of the United States for the more comfortable confines of space colonies. Those left behind salvage what they can from the collapsing infrastructure. As they eke out an existence, their neighborhoods are being cannibalized. Brick by brick, their houses are sent to the colonies. What was once home, now a quaint reminder for the colonists of the world, what they wrecked. The Unfamiliar Garden by Benjamin Percy. The night the sky fell, Jack and Nora's daughter vanished in the woods, and Mia's disappearance broke her parents' already fragile marriage. Unable to solve her own daughter's case, Nora lost herself in her work as a homicide detective, and Jack became a shell of a man, his promising career as a biologist crumbling alongside the meteor strikes that altered weather patterns and caused a massive drought. It isn't until 5 years later that the rains finally return to nourish Seattle. In this period of sudden growth, Jack uncovers evidence of a new fungus, while Nora investigates several brutal, realistic murders. Soon they will be drawn together by the horrifying connection between their discoveries, partnering to fight a deadly contagion, as well as the government forces that know the truth about the fate of their daughter. Our seventh genre is mystery suspense. Last Seen Alive by Joanna Schaeferhausen. Boston detective Ellery Hathaway met FBI agent Reed Markham when he pried open a serial killer's closet to rescue her. Years on, their relationship remains defined by that moment and by Frances Coben's horrific crimes. To free herself from Coben's legacy, Ellery had to walk away from Reed too. But Coben is not letting go so easily. He has an impossible proposition. Coben will finally give up the location of the remaining bodies on one condition: Reed must bring him Ellery. Now, the families of the missing victims are crying out for justice that only Ellery can deliver. The media hungers for a sequel, and Coben is their camera ready star. He claims he is sorry and wants to make amends, but Ellery is the one living person who has seen the monster behind the mask, and she doesn't believe he can be redeemed. Not after everything he's done, not after what she's been through, and certainly not after a fresh body turns up with Coben's signature all over it. Greenwich Park by Catherine Faulkner. Ellen's life, handsome architect husband, gorgeous Victorian house, and a cherished baby on the way after years of trying, begins to change the day she attends her first prenatal class and meets Rachel, an unpredictable single mother to be. Rachel doesn't seem very maternal. She smokes, drinks, professes little interest in parenthood. Still, Helen is drawn to her. Maybe Rachel just needs a friend. And to be honest, Helen's a bit lonely herself. At least Rachel is fun to be with. She makes Helen laugh, invites her confidence, and distracts her from her fears. But her increasingly erratic behavior is unsettling, and Ellen's not the only one who's noticed. Her friends and family begin to suspect that her strange new friend may be linked to their shared history in unexpected ways. When Rachel threatens to expose past crimes that could destroy all of their lives, it becomes clear that there are more than a few secrets laying beneath the broad-leaved trees and the warm lamplight of Greenwich Park. The Department of Rare Books and Special Collections by Eva Jerzik. Liza Lewis long ago learned to be content working behind the scenes in the distinguished rare books department of a large university, managing details and working behind the scenes to make the head of the department look good. But when her boss has a stroke and she's left to run things, she discovers that the library's most prized manuscript is missing. Liesl tries to sound the alarm and inform the police about the missing priceless book, but is told repeatedly to keep quiet, to keep the doors open and the donors happy. But then a librarian unexpectedly stops showing up to work. Liesl must investigate both disappearances, unspooling her colleagues' past like threads of a rare book binding, as it becomes clear that someone in the department must be responsible for the theft. What Liesl discovers about the dusty manuscripts she has worked among for so long and about the people who care for them and revive them shakes the very foundation on which she has built her life. The School for Good Mothers by Jessamine Chan. Frida is struggling. She doesn't have a career worthy of her Chinese immigrant parents' sacrifices. She can't persuade her husband, Gus, to give up his wellness obsessed younger mistress. Only with Harriet, their daughter, does Frida finally attain the perfection expected of her. Harriet may be all she has, but she is just enough until she has a very bad day. The state has its eyes on mothers like Frida, the ones who check their phones, letting their children get injured on the playground, who let their children walk home alone because one moment of poor judgment. A host of government officials will now determine if Frida is a candidate for a big brother like institution that measures the success or failure of a mother's devotion. Faced with the possibility of losing Harriet, Frida must prove that bad mother can be redeemed, that she can learn to be good. A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. When Chloe Davis was 12, six teenage girls went missing in her small Louisiana town. By the end of the summer, her own father had confessed to the crimes and was put away for life, leaving Chloe and the rest of her family to grapple with the truth and try to move forward with dealing with the aftermath. Now, 20 years later, Chloe is a psychologist in Baton Rouge and getting ready for a wedding. While she finally has a fragile grasp on happiness she's worked so hard to achieve, she sometimes feels as out of control of her own life as troubled teens who are her patients. So when a local teenage girl goes missing and then another, that terrifying summer comes crashing back. Is she paranoid, seeing parallels from her past that aren't actually there? Or for the second time in life, is Chloe about to unmask a killer? The Maid by Nita Prose. Molly Gray is not like everyone else. She struggles with social skills and misreads the intentions of others. Her gran used to interpret the world for her, codifying it into simple rules that Molly could live by. Since Gran died a few months ago, 25-year-old Molly has been navigating life's complexities all by herself. No matter, she throws herself with gusto into her work as a hotel maid. Her unique character, along with her obsessive love of cleaning and proper etiquette, make her an ideal fit for the job. She delights in donning her crisp uniform each morning, stocking her car with miniature soaps and bottles, and returning guest rooms at the Regency Grand Hotel to a state of perfection. But Molly's orderly life is upended the day she enters the suite of the infamous and wealthy Charles Black, only to find it in a state of disarray, and Mr. Black himself dead in his bed. Before she knows what's happening, Molly's unusual demeanor has the police targeting her as their lead suspect. She quickly finds herself caught in a web of deception, one she has no idea how to untangle. Fortunately for Molly, friends that she never knew she had unite with her in search for clues of what really happened to Mr. Black. But will they able to find the real killer before it's too late? Our last genre is memoirs. Chasing History, A Kid in the Newsroom by Carl Bernstein. In this triumphant memoir, Carl recalls his beginning as an audacious teenage newspaper reporter in the nation's capital, a winning tale of scrapes, gumshoeing, and American bedlam. In the 1960s, Bernstein was just 16-year-old at considerable risk of failing to graduate high school. Inquisitive, self-taught, and yes, truant, Bernstein landed a job as a copyboy at the Evening Star, the afternoon paper in Washington. By 19, he was a reporter there. And the story continues. Rise, My Story by Lindsey Vonn. 82 World Cup wins, 20 World Cup titles, 3 Olympic medals, 7 World Championship medals. A fixture in the American sports landscape for almost 20 years, Lindsey Vonn is a legend, with a career that spanned a transformation in how America reorganizes and celebrates female athletes. Vonn, who retired in 2019 as the most decorated American skier of all time, was the vanguard of the change, helping blaze the trail of other world-class female athletes and reimagining what it meant to pursue speed at all costs. Vaughn offers a fascinating glimpse into the relentless pursuit of her limits, a pursuit so focused on one-upping herself that she pushed her body past its breaking point as she agreed greatness. Vaughn opens up about her decades-long depression and struggles with self-confidence, discussing candidly how her mental health challenges influenced her career without defining her. Finding Normal, Sex, Love, and Taboo in Our Hyper-Connected World by Alex Toussaint. Finding Normal explores how people are using the internet to find community, forge connections, create identity in ways that challenge a variety of sexual norms. Based on a highly candid interview series conducted for the New York Magazine Human Science column, What It's Like, each story in Finding Normal intimately immerses the reader in the world of a person who is grappling with unique set of circumstances relating to sexuality. The Rise, Kobe Bryant in Pursuit of Immortality by Mike Sisky. Kobe Bryant's death in January 2020 did more than rattle the worlds of sports and celebrity. The tragedy of the helicopter crash, which also took the life of his daughter Gianna, unveiled the full breadth and depth of his influence on our culture. By tracing and telling an oft-forgotten, lesser-known story of his early life, The Rise promises to provide an insight into Kobe that no other analysis has. Readers will travel from the neighborhood streets of Southwest Philadelphia, where Kobe's father, Joe, became a local basketball standout, to the Bryant family's isolation in Italy, where Kobe spent his formative years, to the leafy suburbs of Lower Merion, where Kobe's legend was born. The story will trace his career and the life at the Lower Merion. He led Aces to the 1995-1996 Pennsylvania State Champions, a dramatic underdog run for a team with just one star player, and the rise up to the 1996 NBA draft, where Kobe's dream of playing pro basketball culminated in his acquisition by the Los Angeles Lakers. Unthinkable by Jamie Raskin. Now, for the first time, Congressman Raskin discusses the unimaginable convergence of personal and public trauma, detailing how the painful loss of his son and the power of Tommy's convictions fueled the congressman's work in the aftermath of modern democracy's darkest day. Going inside Congress on January 6, he recounts the horror of that day, a day that he and other Democrats had spent months preparing for under the correct assumption that they would encounter an attempted electoral coup, not against a president, but for one. And yet, on January 6, he had faced the one thing he had failed to anticipate: a mass political violence designed to block Biden's election. With an inside account of the leading the team prosecuting President Trump in the Senate, Congressman Raskin shares never before told stories of just how close we came to losing our democracy that fateful day, and lays out the prosecution that convinced Democrats and Republicans alike of Trump's responsibility for inciting violence against our government.